Hey guys, so today I have swatches of the OPI Retro Summer collection. There are 6 polishes here. They are all kind of pastel-ish neons. I guess there's kind of a range here. You can find these at btysales.com, which I will link down below, and 6 polishes, and I will get into the swatches. So the first polish is called Tell Me About It, and this is a pastel yellow. Here it is next to One Chic Chick from the Soft Shades collection this year. You can tell it's a little bit more saturated than the one from the Soft Shades, but not by much. So here's one coat. So this one is pretty streaky and pretty sheer on the first coat. The formula on this is really thin, it's really watery, and it's very difficult to control and to apply. You have to be super, super careful. So here's 2 coats. This one is still a bit streaky. It evened out pretty well considering how the first coat looked, but it's not enough to call it good. It will need a third at least. And again, that formula is pretty difficult. It's very, very thin. So here's 3 coats. So 3 coats in this one almost covers completely. You can still see some minor streaks. They could be non-existent or they could be pretty major depending on your application. I'd say I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I think it's bad enough that I wouldn't consider it opaque enough to like walk out the door in 3 coats, so you would probably want to keep going if you didn't want those streaks. But you might not have them. You might be a little less heavy-handed than me. So there is 3 coats of Tell Me About It. The next polish is called Sailing and Nailing, and this is a light blue. Here it is next to It's a Boy from the Soft Shades collection. Again, it's a bit more saturated. I think the difference between these two is a lot better as far as can I justify having both goes than the difference between the 2 yellows. So here's 1 coat. This one is also pretty streaky and sheer on the first coat. Same formula as the last one. Thin, watery, difficult to apply. It's difficult to not flood your cuticles or the sides of your nails because the polish itself is so thin. So here's 2 coats. This one is starting to build up in 2. I'm having to just barely touch my nail with my brush though. I don't know if you noticed on this nail, the tiniest bit of pressure was pulling that color off my nail and making a bald spot. So I'm trying to just barely touch the surface of my nail and float this color on the top to avoid making a bald spot. So here's 3 coats. This one looks like it's going to cover completely in 3. I am just barely touching the surface of my nail with the brush to avoid a bald spot. Because of that, I end up doing a little bit thicker of a 3rd coat because I don't want to push hard enough to thin it out. And that formula also is a bit difficult because it is so thin. So there is 3 coats of Sailing and Nailing. The next polish is called I'm Getting A Tan-gerine, and this is a light orange. So here's 1 coat. And this one is also a bit thin and streaky. And the formula is the same as the others, thin, watery, a little bit difficult to control. You really have to be careful with these. So here's 2 coats. I am still trying to float the brush on this one to avoid creating bald spots, but it doesn't seem like they pop up as easily as they did with the blue. And this one is still pretty streaky on the 2nd coat, so it is going to need a 3rd. So here's 3 coats. So 3 coats pretty much covers completely on this one. You can still see some dark spots where it's not completely even, but they're not terrible. And I am trying to float the brush a little bit so I end up with a little bit thicker of a 3rd coat because I don't want to dig down too deep to thin it out. The next polish is called Where's the Double Scoop, and this is a lighter pink. So here's 1 coat. This one is also a bit thin and streaky on the 1st coat. Same formula as the other ones, thin, watery, difficult to apply. So here's 2 coats. This one is still a bit streaky on the 1st coat, and if you do anything other than float the brush on top, you will end up with a bald spot like I did there on my pointer finger. It's just barely any pressure at all, just enough to touch the brush to the top of your nail. So here's 3 coats. So this one covers almost completely in 3 coats. There are still a few dark spots, but they're not terrible. I am using a very, very light hand to apply this 3rd coat though to make sure that I don't create any extra dark spots or bald spots, whatever you want to call them. So there is 3 coats of What's the Double Scoop. The next polish is Flip Flops and Crop Tops, and this is a I wouldn't say hot pink. It's definitely hotter than what's the double scoop, but I feel like it's not quite there. It's like medium to hot pink. So here's one coat. This one is a bit streaky on the first coat, but it does seem to cover a lot better. It doesn't have that same sheerness that the other ones had, even though it is still a little bit streaky. The formula on this one is good. It's not thin at all like the other ones. It's not too thick either. It's really easy to control and to apply. So here's two coats. This one actually looks like it covers completely in two. It's not like 100% no dark spots at all opaque, but it is very, very close, and I don't think that it needs a third coat. I don't think that the spots are bad enough, and I don't think anyone's really going to be able to see them. And I have noticed as it dries, it kind of smooths out a little bit and covers those up as well. So there is two coats of flip-flops and crop tops. So the next polish is called SPF XXX, and this is a kind of like hot corally orange color. It definitely doesn't appear just like straight up bright orange to me. It has a little bit of a coral tinge to it. So here's one coat. This one is still a bit streaky on the first coat. The formula on this one is pretty good. It's not super thin. It's not quite as good as the last one, as the pink. I feel like it's somewhere in between the really thin formulas and the good formula. So here's two coats. I'd say this one covers completely for me on two. It's like the pink one where you may need a third coat depending on your application. It's not super, super evident that there's dark spots, and they do kind of blend as it dries. I don't think it's enough to warrant a third coat, but that also depends on your preference. So there is two coats of SPF XXX. So I think my favorite is going to be flip-flops and crop tops. SPF XXX had a good formula too, but this was the best formula out of all of them, the easiest one to work with. The rest were kind of difficult. So this one is my favorite. I do like the color. Like if I had to pick between these two because the formulas were good, I'm going to pick the pink one. But this was the easiest one to work with, so it's my favorite. So again, you can find those at btysales.com. I will link that website down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later.